I am Virginia George. I'm the Director of Student Support for AYA, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my colleague, Bisma Khan. Hey, B.
Hi.
Today, we're going to be talking about hosting a YES student. Students from the Kennedy-Lugar Youth Exchange Program are amazing merit-based scholarship winners who come from predominantly Muslim countries. Bisma and I thought it would be a fantastic opportunity to talk about why hosting a YES student is such a great opportunity. Bisma, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So my name is Bisma Khan, and I'm a regional director at AYA, and I've been with the company for 2 years now. I've actually also only been in the States for 2 years as well. So I grew up and was raised in Canada, but I was born in Pakistan. So I've always been super curious about learning about different cultures and religions, been a huge fan of diversity, and as a practicing Muslim myself, I've always wanted to share more about my culture and religion as well. It's been really a perfect match working with AYA, and being a Muslim, I feel like I can really relate to a lot of our YES students, and I'm really looking forward to share more about my culture, religion, and aspects that our YES students experience when they're on the program, to share why you should host a YES student.
I think this is a great opportunity to talk about some of the cultural differences that come up. So I wanted to give you a chance to share a little bit from your own perspective about why hosting a YES student is such a great way to bring a different culture into your home. Just to start us off, can you just tell us a little bit about some of the key highlights of Islam?
Absolutely. Islam is a monotheistic religion. It's actually very similar to Christianity and Judaism. I personally feel there's more similarities than differences. And a lot of people might not be aware of that, or, based on what they've heard in the media, or just, little bits of information they have about Islam and Muslims, they might not really know what the religion entails of, or how different it is across cultures as well. So I feel like our students can really shed more light on that and bring awareness to our communities about Islam. So in very simple terms, there are 5 pillars of Islam that dictate a Muslim's life. The first one is believing in one God. Second is praying 5 times a day, which some of our host families who have hosted YES students, or our local coordinators that I've supervised YES students, might notice that our students pray 5 times a day. So that's something you might come across as well when hosting one of those students. The third pillar is fasting the month of Ramadan. So that's 1 month throughout the year where Muslims all over the world fast from dawn to sunset for 30 days. So I think that's always a cool experience for host families to share with their students as well, and to learn more about why Muslims do that, and really experience a different holiday than the holidays we are exposed to. And the fourth pillar is giving charity, and the fifth pillar is attending a pilgrimage. Those I don't think will be really applicable to our students. So I think from the 5 pillars of Islam, it's really praying 5 times a day, fasting Ramadan, that our families and local coordinators get exposed to. But there are other branches of Islam as well that I feel like do affect our students, and a lot of host families might have questions or concerns about. And I think those 2 areas are specifically the HIJAB and following a halal diet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, 2 of the most common things that our host families either have questions or hesitations around are, and I think it comes from a place of wanting to be respectful and supportive of students, but not knowing how. So those 2
Right.
things that we hear very commonly are, what if a student wears a hijab? Why do they do that? I don't understand that. It might set them apart and they look different. That might be intimidating to some people. And then also eating halal. What does that mean? How do I accommodate that in my home? I want to be welcoming to the student, but I don't know what halal is or how to eat that meat. I don't know. Can you just tell us a little bit about those 2 specific aspects for our students who do follow a halal diet or wear a hijab?
Absolutely. I wear one myself, and I've actually had a unique journey with it that I really want to share, because I have actually been inspired by our YES students throughout my journey. So I actually never used to wear it when I was in Canada initially, and then I started to wear it before I moved. And in Canada, where I lived, it was a very large Muslim population, so it was easy to blend in, and you were actually kind of the odd one out if you didn't wear it. So when I moved to the States, I was a little nervous about, looking like the odd one out, feeling isolated and things like that. But then when I came across our YES students, I was like, These students are like 15, 16 years old. They're coming to a new country, living with a family that they don't know. And they're so confident and resilient in wearing the hijab and like are not at all affected by, how they might be perceived or, being judged. So I was actually very inspired by that. And that made me want to go back to wearing it. And I started feeling a little bit more confident about it. But in terms of what the hijab is, it's a form of modesty. So in Islam, modesty is a huge, huge thing. And it's applicable to both men and women, kind of in different ways. Dressing and appearance is one form of modesty, but we're encouraged to be modest, in our speech, in our character, in our behaviors, in our spending. So that's kind of just something we're encouraged in all aspects of our life. With the hijab specifically, it is obligatory for women to wear it. It's a sign of, your expression to your dedication to God. It's for you to identify as a Muslim. So, when you see someone wearing, you kind of automatically know that this person is a Muslim. They follow certain principles and guidelines. And it's also very much a feminist statement as well. In a world where, women are heavily objectified, it's a statement where you're kind of saying, hey, I want to be valued for my personality, my skills, my talents, and my value doesn't come from just my appearance. So that's kind of the roots of why hijab is encouraged. Of course, you might see that some Muslim girls don't wear it, and that's, their individual spiritual journey. But we actually have 3 YES students available right now to host who do wear the hijab. We have a girl from Tanzania, Bahrain, and the Philippines. If you live in a community that you don't really know much about Islam or Muslims and you want to create awareness and really bridge the gap between the Middle East and the Western world, I think bringing a student into your home who, strongly represents a Muslim figure is a great way to start conversations and really develop a little bit more connection and understanding between what the hijab means and what it is to be a Muslim.
And I think that's also, first of all, that is so great that the students have been inspiring to you. It's such a great testament to like how wonderful the kids on the YES program in particular are. All exchange students teach us so much, but our YES students and our Flex students, that's our other grant program, they really come to the United States with the goal of teaching others about their culture. And they are a part of a lot of preparation that gets them ready to come to the United States, especially our students who do wear a hijab. They know that they're coming here with the opportunity to share about their religion and about why they dress and look the way they do. So they're prepared for that and look forward to it in a lot of cases. So I think that's just such a great aspect of the program and a great opportunity, like you said. What does it mean to eat halal, and how is that something that our host families can work with if they're feeling a little unsure about hosting a student who has dietary restrictions?
Absolutely. So the word halal essentially means lawful. So it can really apply to anything that's lawful for a Muslim, a non-Muslim. So the word halal food means lawful food. So essentially Muslims can really eat anything except pork or foods derived from pigs. So like things like gelatin, that kind of sneak up in like marshmallows or candies, things like that. But other than that, the restriction is only particularly with meat products. It doesn't mean they can't have things like chicken, beef, goat, lamb. For meat to be halal, essentially it needs to be blessed with God's name and it needs to be slaughtered in a particular way. But halal meat actually is like very readily available in a lot of stores now. So if you go in the meat section, you can like specifically see certain foods or certain meats marked as like halal, and that's how you know this meat is halal or not. Host families can definitely kind of look in their area to see if their grocery options have that meat available. But at the same time, there's so many different ways to go about like accommodating a student that's only eating halal meat. A lot of students will opt for a vegetarian diet while they're here if they can't find halal meat readily. So while having meat is ideal, it's not really essential.
We do sometimes hear from families that halal meat is expensive and it's difficult for them to pay for. So what are your sort of top suggestions for if you want to avoid the halal meat in general or just really keep it to a minimum because of the cost?
Well, I would say firstly there's secondary options like kosher meat. So kosher meat is often available as well. Some students from particular countries are open to having kosher meat as an alternative. if that's too expensive as well, because sometimes it is, I would just say treat the student like they're a vegetarian. A lot of students I have noticed that come from certain countries are actually open to eating non-halal meat while they're here, because they might feel like, they're here in a temporary situation where they can be a little bit more flexible. So you might find out that your student is open to eating whatever meat you're cooking at home. But if they aren't, I would just say look into secondary protein options. Seafood is great. The other proteins I mentioned, and kind of just treat them like a student who's a vegetarian.
That makes a lot of sense. Something that host families, again, we hear are a little intimidated by, but our students are really willing to talk it out and figure things out with their host families. It's all about communication and exploring. Mm-hmm. This whole experience is about trying new things and also being flexible. So our students definitely come here with that expectation. They know they have to be flexible. It usually works out pretty well.
I definitely wouldn't say this is something that should deter you from hosting a YES student. I think it might just take a little bit of, again, like you said, communicating or having a conversation beforehand to find out what your specific students' expectations are. But either way, there's a lot of alternatives and options to work around it. And again, if it's still a topic that's confusing to you or you don't understand, we're always available at the AY office to clarify anything you have questions about.
You mentioned a little bit ago that depending on where a student's from, they might dress or practice their religion differently. Can you talk a little bit about some of the regional differences in Islam and how that can affect whatever student comes on program?
Students from Middle East tend to be more strict about the hijab. So you'll find students from Libya or Kuwait or Bahrain or some African countries usually wear the hijab. And then you'll find students from South Asian countries, from Pakistan or India, they might not necessarily wear the hijab as strictly. But then you'll find the opposite when it comes to halal food. The students from the Middle East tend to be more flexible about eating meats that aren't necessarily slaughtered in the halal way. But students from South Asia typically, or Indonesia and Philippines, are a little bit more strict about halal food. So I think that just has some more to do with interpretation of the religion in different areas and the influence of culture on the religion. I think just keeping that in mind, that the cultures affect the way the students practice the religion as well.
Gotcha. That's such a good point. Another great example of how, you can set up your expectations and do your own research as much as you want. But then when you have that individual student in your home, the best way to find out what works best for them is to talk to them about it, see what they want to do. I think that makes a lot of sense. So just to kind of wrap things up, if you had to think of the basic pitch, why host a YES student, what would you say?
I would say first and foremost to really address all the misrepresentation and stereotypes that come with Islam and Muslim students or individuals in general. I feel like a lot of people don't get the full picture of what the religion entails of, what the culture entails of, and then I think having a student in your home, in your community, can really help challenge those stereotypes and really develop more understanding for the religion and promote diversity and inclusion. Our students, again, like you said, are so well prepared for that and are willing to share that information so openly. So I think really challenging mainstream media and how Islam is represented. In addition to that, I think really bridging the gap between the Western world and the Eastern world. So not only is it great for Americans to have a different perspective and understanding of Islam, but for Muslims to also have a different understanding of Americans. So really coming here and seeing that, this is how Americans are. They're very loving and inclusive and supportive. And America's so diverse, and their depiction of what America might not be a reality. And so for them to go back home and really talk about how great America is, I think that's very important as well. In addition to that, I would just say that, again, we have so many different Muslim students from so many different cultures, and just being able to experience a different culture along with the religion of Islam and just seeing how diverse it is across different cultures is a really great way to experience both the faith and the student's culture in your home. Like any other student, I think just really exposing yourself to something that might be a little foreign to you and developing that understanding in your household is a great way for you to just expand your understanding of the world.
Absolutely. Especially after, we're coming down to a winding down pandemic after this year and a half of isolation that we've all had. There has literally never been a better opportunity to open your home and your life up to differences in culture and understanding. I think this is a great way to do that. Bisma, I want to thank you so much for sharing some of your personal history and background with all of us. I really appreciate your insight, and I hope that folks feel a little more comfortable now with the idea of hosting one of our Muslim students. As always, please feel free, if anybody has questions, to reach out to the AYA National Office. Either myself or Bisma will be happy to speak with you in further detail or answer any questions you might have.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.